they would get a can of gold spray paint, and they would get themselves like a bag, paper bag or a bag, and they would spray in it, right? And then they would get high. Well, some of them would actually die from it too. But then when you go bust them, right, here it is on their nose, gold, silver, gold paint on their nose, right? And you say, okay, you've been snorting spray paint, haven't you? No, man. No, I would never do it. And you go, well, hey, I hate to say it, your lips and your nose and all that stuff and your hair and your nose and whatever, it's all covered with gold paint. You trying to tell me you're not snorting that stuff up?
Yeah, I have actually had a couple people, the gold spray paint all the way around nose and mouth in a perfect circle where the paper bag was over the face and they were huffing the paint. It's like, don't tell me you weren't using, because you need to look in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually knew somebody killed themselves off of helium. They actually, got high off of helium. But I guess if you snort it long enough, right, inhale it long enough, I guess it will kill you.
It displaces the oxygen in the blood. Yeah. You suffocate, basically, from it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, or if you don't, you got brain damage. Now, okay, so you were a deputy sheriff. Evidently, something happened where you couldn't do it anymore. What? Mm-hmm. Okay, you're very talented. You do jewelry. You wrote a series of books. Like, I can't believe. I mean, I know you don't drink and you don't use drugs. I don't know how you got the energy. I really don't know. Liz, I don't know how you did it. I've seen some of these other books that some of these authors written, in a week or two. And I'll be honest with you, I read the first page and I got this box in my studio, right? And those are the books I toss in the box. And then I never, get back to them to be on the show because they were so poorly written. You accomplished something, that it really shocks me. They're fantastic books, but I've noticed from some of your postings up on different media that, well, you're taken not as a serious writer in sci-fi or paranormal because you're female.
Right. Because women aren't supposed to know about science fiction, about action, about thrillers. They're supposed to, with their genres of romance and romantic comedy and chick lit and, just a very narrow little field that women are supposed to write in.
Oh, so in other words, a woman's supposed to write cookbooks, right? Write, romantic love books, right? Which are pretty raunchy on some of them I've seen. My wife, for 20-some years, was reading these romance books, okay? And, in my whole time of 40-some years being married to her, I have never bought an adult magazine. Never in my life. But one day, I never, in all these years she was reading them, and she quit. I guess I embarrassed her so much. I never read or even paid attention to any of these stories. And then one day I was bored. She was at work. I had nothing to do. There was nothing on the boob tube to watch. I started reading one of her books and I'm going, oh my God.
Yeah. I cannot read romance novels. I just can't. I don't even watch romantic comedies or romance movies, and to try to read a romance novel, especially one like that, is just not me. I can't do it.
Well, I don't blame you. Ever since that time, my wife came home from work, and I said, she noticed I read her book, and she had that funny red look on her face, and I embarrassed her. I said, hey, don't ever say anything about me buying a dirty book, because I never have. But if I want to get one, it's not even as dirty as what I just read. But, I don't understand how guys can honestly think that women can't write a paranormal book about monsters or Bigfoot or creepy things any different than a man can. I mean, come on. Are men still that stuck up?
Yes, sadly. But the sad part is it's not just men. I have had women tell me the same thing. I have had mostly women tell me that if I want to succeed, I need to redo my books and hide the fact I'm a woman. Use my first two initials and my last name or a male pen name and hide that I'm a woman if I want sci-fi to succeed.
Oh, in other words, you got a pen name as a male or go get a sex change.
Yeah, pretty much. And this came from other women telling me this. And that just blew my mind. It's like how these are women who are the first ones to stand up and say, hey, women need equal rights, they need this and this and this and shouldn't be treated second class. And then they're telling me that I should hide that I'm a woman. I didn't get that.
That is so freaking crazy, okay? You mean a woman can't be involved in writing the paranormal or watching paranormal movies or watching sci-fi or horror movies because they're a woman? And they can't write it?
Guess.
Because it's a man's job to... What makes a man any better writing a paranormal monster book than a woman writing one? I would think actually a woman, because of the way some men treat women, should be able to write a monster book a heck of a lot better. Oh, I'm going to take that back. A hell of a lot better than any man could.
Well, I have proof that I can write because the first book in the series is now award-winning.
No, that's proof. But you know what? Again, because you're a woman, they don't want to buy the book. Okay, that is really sexism if I ever heard it.
It is, and it's very frustrating. I have dealt with more discrimination because I'm a woman as a writer than I ever did in combined 26 years in emergency services.
Now that makes me sick. It really does. But it's true. If you could actually go on the Sci-Fi Channel or go on Comet or you go on to, AMC, and you look at any of these sci-fi movies, how many people who wrote the screenplay do you see are women? It's all men.
I went on IMDb and looked up, some of the biggest sci-fi movies right now. And the sad part was, even like Marvel and DC movies that are really big right now, unless they were specifically targeted at women, lead women roles, they did not have women writers.
Yeah, that's the whole point. I've noticed that. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When I go off the air here tonight, I'm going to answer some fan mail for my show, okay? I normally do that mostly around 5 o'clock in the morning when I get up. The first thing I do is I go into my bedroom, right? I prop my feet up on the bed, right? And I click on either Comet, which is a sci-fi, horror channel, or a sci-fi channel, and I start watching, horror flicks. And I have really been, since I gotten to know you, I really been paying attention of like who wrote the original screenplay, who wrote the storyline. Then I even start looking about who, directed the film, who did this, who did that. And it's all usually men.
Exactly. And it's frustrating.
Well,
it's so frustrating.
Well, Liz, I'm going to tell you what, if these people out there don't even think about buying your books for Christmas stuffing stockers or buying it for a good read, like this time of year, you can actually grab one of these books, start a fire, get some popcorn, get your soda out or beer. Beer and popcorn is good. I used to do that years ago. And sit back and enjoy reading a book. Turn off the frickin' TV and use your brain, people, and get involved in the story and, and take it at your own pace. and close your eyes in between the pages and just picture what is going on. Try it, people.
With my books, I have such a wide range of characters. If any guy who reads the books, if they aren't trying to picture what the head dispatcher looks like, I want to talk to them.
Wow.
And you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They're missing a good series of books. Why don't you tell the listeners, let's start off the first book, a little bit about it, the second book and the third book, and, all the way to the end. And really, what intrigued you? Here you are, a ex-deputy, ex-paramedic, you're in fantastic jewelry. What made you all of a sudden click in your head, I'm going to write some, paranormal, type of books?
Well, part of it was because of the health issues that I have times when I have serious pain flares and flares of inflammation. So I'd kind of had this idea floating around in my head for a while about somehow the military base was responsible for some kind of paranormal something. I didn't know what. And in the summer of 2016, everything was Bigfoot. Everything was Bigfoot that was on TV. So I thought, I'll look up my county and see what's going on. And there were some reports on the base of sightings. So I thought, okay, shoved that kind of to the back of my brain. A couple of weeks later, the base puts out a bulletin saying a specific trail where there had been a Bigfoot sighting was now closed due to a black bear sighting on the trail. So that's it. They're hiding Bigfoot on the Army base.
Uh-huh.
So that was the start of coming up with this idea that what if he escaped? What if there's other things there that they're hiding? And went from there.
Now, do you get your thoughts when you go to bed at night and you're trying to sleep and all these thoughts come in your mind? Or does it happen like on a regular basis during the course of the day?
I get random ideas just kind of pop into my head. I'll be doing something and just kind of letting my mind wander. Strangely enough, most of the time it is when I'm in the kitchen cooking because I'm not really focused on any one thing. And that's when it kind of pops into my head what the next chapter or next idea needs to be.
Wow. Interesting. And so, how, again, to sit down and start one book, and then you did the second book, and now are you planning to do any more books? And don't tell me you're going to do a cookbook. Please don't do that.
I am considering a cookbook, but it goes along with something else. So but that's a completely separate project, one of those where I have to cook anyway, so I'll just write everything down as I do it, and eventually I'll get a cookbook out of it.
Well, I can tell you, I'm going to do a cookbook. You know what it's going to be? It's going to give you detailed instructions how to cook dinner. 1, you open up the freezer. 2, you grab the box. 3, you go to the counter, open up the box, slide out the container tray. 4, you open up the microwave door. 6, you set it for 5 minutes. 7, you get the plate out and the fork and spoon. 7, you pour yourself something to drink, and there it is. And you can go turkey one night, you can go ham one night, you can go, whatever that. Hey, don't buy the chicken fried steak because it's no chicken in it. And if you think you're buying meatloaf, you're buying meatloaf with maybe 10% meat, and who knows what else that is.
Yeah, the meatloaf and the chicken fried steak is kind of iffy. Sometimes the Salisbury steak is a little questionable too.
Yeah, well, that's okay. You go to McDonald's and buy a hamburger. Do you realize that patty could be up to 5,000 calories?
I don't even want to think about that. I had a Big Mac last week. I do not want to think about that.
Yeah, just think about that. 5,000 cows, had to give up their beef, for your Big Mac.
Yeah.